Throughout Marvel history, as time has gone on, many things have happened within the company and comic lore itself to shake things up. Some of the decisions made have paved the way for revolutionary changes in comics, but all of the biggest changes are always going to make waves. Why? Because as humans, we are survivors who seek comfort and usually control. Change is always going to be both scary and also excite us, because it usually is not what we initially seek out. But sometimes it is what we need. Then again, sometimes not so much. Welcome back, my fellow nerds. Today we're going to be looking at some of the changes and revelations that have come to pass throughout Marvel history that have caused many of us to do a double take as they came to pass. Join me as we count down the top 10 most shocking moments in Marvel history. And speaking of Marvel, I recently worked on another Marvel list that was very close to my heart, and I think the hearts of many right now, and I would love it if you checked it out. Click up here to watch my top 10 most powerful Black Panthers list and learn about some of our favorite portrayals of that superhero mantle. Alright, now let's get counting. Number 10. Phoenix Saga. Although now we just look back at the Phoenix Saga as being a part of history, at the time it was shocking. Jean Grey merged with a cosmic force that saved her from dying in outer space, attracting the presence we have come to know as the Phoenix Force. This Phoenix Force would later be revealed to now be a part of Jean, granting her great power. She became known as having the power of a god and then turned dark and became an insane supervillain, and then she died. And she had been one of the founding members of the X-Men. This was big stuff. Of course, Jean wouldn't stay dead, which would end up only shocking readers even more in the future when she did return, especially as it meant that Cyclops would abandon his happy home life with Jean's clone, Madeline Pryor, who he had married and kinda also had a child with. Bad Scott Summers, bad Scott. Number 9. Death of Hulk. The difference between Jean's death during the Dark Phoenix Saga and that of Hulk's death during Civil War II is one felt at least like it was kinda coming from somewhere. We all knew that Bruce Banner at the time had been working to cure himself of his Hulk transformation. Amadeus Cho had ended up even trying to help his friend by trying to remove the gamma radiation from Bruce and take it into himself, turning him into the totally awesome Hulk, a more emotionally balanced version of the hero. Bruce Banner even gave Hawkeye a special Hulk-killing arrow in case he ever began to transform once more, and instructed that Hawkeye should kill him should that come to pass. However, we don't really learn about this until after Hawkeye has done the deed. Instead, a tense argument with Bruce is interrupted by his swift death. Of course, Bruce Banner and his Hulk would be back, but at the moment he died, readers were likely thinking, wait, did I just read that right? Did Bruce's companion and friend Clint Barton just kill him? And yes, he did. He did do that. Even he was shocked. Number 8. Death of Wolverine. The death of an unkillable and one of the most popular heroes? This one caught a lot of people off guard initially and likely helped to boost sales just from that title alone. Everyone wanted to know how Wolverine's story would end. Of course, once again, this is comics, so Wolverine's death would not end up being permanent. Because, yeah, he is one of the most popular characters, so obviously we're not gonna let him stay dead. In the end, it was adamantium that was Wolverine's undoing. The very thing that had made him so tough over the years also ended up killing him. Wolverine was without his healing factor after a microverse virus deactivated it, and learned that, well, there was also a bounty on his head. While other brilliant minds rushed to fix Wolverine's healing factor, Logan was resigned to his fate, not showing any desire for having it brought back. He tracked down the one responsible for the bounty on his head, and during the confrontation ended up rushing to save Weapon X test subjects and victims from having the deadly adamantium bonding process that he had actually gone through years before. Slashing the tanks of adamantium caused him to become covered in the liquid metal, which hardened and encased him, suffocating and killing him. What a way to go. But like I said, he would return. And with random burning hot claws to boot. Never forget that he has hot claws, though they never really come up. Number 7. Nick Fury becomes a Watcher. Basically, the story here is that the villain known as Orb, working with a few other villains, was jealous of Uatu the Watcher and decided to shoot him and steal his eye so that he could have the power of a Watcher. However, when Nick Fury found out about this tragedy, he immediately went to investigate, as he did not know who was behind the ordeal. The Watcher actually refused to tell Fury what he knew, as it was not really his role to do so, only to watch and observe, not to interfere, even when he himself had been interfered with. That is some respect right there. He's like, this is my job, that's it, even if I'm kind of bleeding and maybe dying. Because of this, Fury felt he had no choice and killed the Watcher and stole stole his other eye, which contained Uatu's memories in order to try to figure out who was responsible for the previous theft and for attacking Uatu. Eventually, Fury managed to get the confession he sought and discovered the orb was responsible. One of the other villains the orb had been with at the time, Dr. Midas, returned to the Watcher's Citadel in order to absorb even more power from Uatu's corpse. Fury overloaded him using the power of the eye that was in his possession. This resulted in an explosion that seemingly killed both Midas and Fury, but in the end it was discovered that Fury had survived. As punishment for his sins, because all of this took place in the original Sin story, the Watchers turned him into Uatu's replacement, forcing him to be the chained observer of Earth known as the Unseen. Number 6. Civil War. Not the second one though, that one was much less of a shock, I think. But the first Civil War got people excited while also amazing them when it first came out. Captain America and Iron Man had always kind of been at odds, but they were also friends and colleagues who had worked side by side for years as part of the Avengers. The notion that these two would be declaring all-out war on the other was pretty huge, especially when it came to the politics of what was going on, where Stark was advocating for his Superhuman Registration Act, or the Superhuman Registration Act. Kinda became his later though. Which would demand more accountability for heroes and would basically make them all government agents. Iron Man believed this could help to prevent potential casualties during world-threatening situations and events. Cap, however, did not believe that superhumans needed to be restricted and stood for freedom of superhumans. In the end, Captain America looked at the damage the war had caused and decided to surrender, but was seemingly assassinated by a time-traveling bullet on his way to prison, which ends the war. I could explain more about the time-traveling bullet, but that would be a whole other video, really. Number 5. Death of the Ultimate Universe. So we all kinda saw this one coming, but it was still shocking. While the Ultimate Alternate Universe of Earth 1610 was one that had a lot of weird problem areas, it also gave us a lot of great and inventive takes on characters and some really cool moments. So despite the fact that it had kind of been run into the ground, many fans were still left flabbergasted when the line was cancelled after years of existing and being considered relatively successful. Sure, we still got to keep some of our favorite characters from 1610 like Miles Morales and the villainous Reed Richards known as the Maker, but it was still shocking to know that almost everything and everyone else from that universe was gone forever. Even heartbreaking for some. R.I.P. Ultimates. You live on in our dreams. Number 4. Spider-Woman revealed as Skrull Queen. Skrulls have been a known shapeshifting race in the comics since they were first introduced in Fantastic Four issue 2 in the 1960s, but that doesn't mean that their almost completely secret invasion of Earth didn't shock and surprise us. Secret Invasion was an event that made everyone question everything they knew. No one was to be trusted because you didn't know if who you were talking to or even thought you had known for years could secretly have been a Skrull. Needless to say, when it was finally revealed the Skrull Queen had actually been hiding disguised as accomplished Avenger and sometimes detective Jessica Drew, aka Spider-Woman, people were shocked. Even more surprising was the fact that Norman Osborn, of all people, was the one to take her out. Number 3. Gwen Stacy and Norman Osborn's ship. During the Sins Past story, it was revealed that Gwen Stacy had a secret and kinda creepy relationship with Norman Osborn. Ew. And that this relationship resulted in the birth of 2 twins. Osborn had sent Stacy to Paris to birth the 2 twins, and this all happened before, I believe, her relationship with Peter. After her death, the existence of her and Osborn's children remained unknown to Peter, but Osborn convinced the twins, whom he raised in secret, that Spider-Man was both their father and also responsible for their mother's death, turning them into his own minions and goblins. This whole story is pretty shocking and is very icky. Number 2. Captain America becomes Hydra Supreme. The Cosmic Cube became a sentient entity resembling a little girl known as Kobik. S.H.I.E.L.D. had hoped to use the shards that created her form to manipulate reality as they saw fit. Unfortunately, this plan did not work out for them. Red Skull managed to influence the girl into warping reality to turn Captain America into a long-time Hydra sleeper agent. And so we got the shocking story where it was revealed that all this time Cap had been working for the evil organization of Hydra. That one panel where Cap says, "Hail Hydra?" Yeah, that was a real thing that happened. Cap would actually succeed in infiltrating and conquering the United States government, becoming the reigning Hydra Supreme, but would later be defeated by main continuity Captain America, who still lived within the Cosmic Cube. This version of Cap would return and defeat his alternate evil self. Whew. Thank goodness. Number 1. Miss Marvel's surprise pregnancy. I wish this was a shocking moment that I could forget, and yet I cannot. And I cannot also believe that someone greenlit this story. We learn in issue 197 of Avengers that Carol Danvers as Miss Marvel is pregnant. Not only that, but her pregnancy seems to be progressing along at an alarmingly quick rate. Carol is scared, but is reassured by Wanda, to whom she revealed her secret identity, that she is an Avenger, which means she has a group of friends who will stand by her no matter what. Unfortunately, what that ends up meaning is a group of friends who actually don't really seem to listen to her, celebrating the pregnancy and kind of shaming blaming Carol somewhat for not being happier about it, despite the fact that Carol is terrified and has no earthly idea how this could have happened to her. It's later revealed that her baby, who grows up rapidly and introduces himself as Marcus, is also kind of the man who got her pregnant, or an extension of him anyways, who had to do so in order to use her body as a means of escaping limbo, but then realizes that his presence in the world is too dangerous. What a great plan you had. He ends up returning to limbo, but Carol for some reason decides to come with him so that he won't be alone. At no point do the Avengers really listen to Carol or check in with her or try to help her when she's obviously being manipulated by Marcus, who even confesses that he manipulated her to begin with. Thankfully, Chris Claremont at least wrote an Avengers Annual a year later calling out how shockingly bad this story was. Thank you, Claremont. Thanks for watching, Nerd Squad. What have you found to be the most shocking moments in Marvel history? Why do you find shocking moments to sometimes be the most rewarding and sometimes the most controversial? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to stay nerdy, YouTube.